which means we are not quite aware of it. So let me have that as a starting point. As you know, this is a software and you have different versions of project. Some of you might be using 2007, 2010, 2013, or 2016. But starting from 2010, Microsoft introduced a feature called task mode. A task mode generally says whether you want to control scheduling or whether Microsoft should control how scheduling should be done. To give you a broad idea about it, when we prepare a proposal or when we prepare a high level plan, we may not have the complete scope of project. Do you all agree with me? But still you want to use Microsoft Project. Maybe later you might want to do a role-way planning or progressive elaboration in order to decompose the work and start creating a detailed plan. So in order to do that from project 2010, this task mode feature has been introduced. So I'm going to create a very simple plan so that you are able to understand if I go for a task mode called manual, how the behavior is. If I go for an auto task mode, how the behavior is. I might try to zoom my screen like this so that you are able to see what magic I'm trying to do. Okay? I hope all of you could see there is a column called task mode out there. Right? So this is what I'm going to start. So like any one of us, the moment you open Microsoft Project, we would like to start entering the names of the tasks to begin with. So I'm going to have just two simple tasks, let's say design and build. Okay? So do you all notice that when I enter these two task names, none of these columns are getting updated. Did you notice this? Yes. Right? So which means that by default, every task is manually scheduled, which means project expects you to fill in the duration and fill in the dates also. Why to worry? We'll enter the dates. Okay, and that's how people think about it. So I'm going to just enter some numbers or durations to each one of these tasks. As you start entering the duration, you also see on the other end, based on the duration that we have just entered, the taskbar is automatically getting displayed. So we think we are doing it right. Am I right? Now this is where the problem starts. The moment you start setting dependencies, that's when the importance of task mode will really come into picture. So I'm going to say after the first task design, my next activity build will start. So and that's how I've set the dependency of 2 to 1. Now you do notice the dependencies are respected. The dates are automatically getting changed. Did everybody see this? So sorry about the last verse. If you can't see it, I can just zoom it so that you can just read it out. Now once you get this, if I say my design is going to take a couple of days more or a couple of days less, you'll start going to the design, changing its duration from 3 days to let's say 5 days. When I change it, you would expect the next task, its successor to automatically adjust. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Now let's see what we get. What happens? So when the first task is getting adjusted, you are able to see that the second task is not getting moved. That is what a manually scheduling is. Some of you might like this feature because it looks like Excel. Okay? But you are trying to use Microsoft Project like Excel now. And that is the cost associated with project also because it is not available free. Now, when you are getting into a detailed planning, what we would expect is when tasks are getting updated, the other tasks will automatically get adjusted. So in order to do it, there are two options that are available. If you still want to have it in task mode as manual, I can just right click that red squiggly line. You could see this here, right? I can just do a right click here. I can say respect the links. By doing it without changing your task mode, I'm still able to adjust it. But the problem is only temporarily solved. If I go back to my design and say it is going to take now 3 days, you see nothing happens. So if you want a permanent solution, number one, don't hide task mode column. Any column we don't understand, we hide it. Right? That's the biggest problem in projects. Okay? So don't hide this task mode column. So to go back, I'm just going to remove all these tasks. So the first step is on your task ribbon. This is what I call as a ribbon. Okay, sorry about these jargons. You need to know about it. Okay. Then you do notice on the task ribbon we have a command available called new task. Do you want that to be auto scheduled or manually scheduled? Make sure that you make this change first. That every task should be auto scheduled. Go ahead and then change it to design, build. So what do you notice now? The dates are automatically put, which some of you may not like. Okay, and I'm going to set the dependencies as 1 to 2. Now, if my design is going to take longer, just observe the dates are automatically getting adjusted. So can we have an applause, please? Right? It's not for me, but for project. Okay? Because I do see a lot of times um, users who are using 2007 or 2003, right? They don't have this task mode column. So every task is auto scheduled till 2007. But when their organization moves to 2010 or 2013, they see some columns which they don't understand. So the moment they see that, they hide it. And that's where everything got started. Okay, so make sure that you change your task mode if you are using 2010 or later versions. That's the first takeaway I would like to give you. Okay. Now this is just the basics. Okay, I would like to cover a few more basics before I talk about do's and don'ts. Microsoft Project is a very fantastic tool, but very complex. That's a bad news. Okay. We all know that. I'm sure everybody at PMGs here.
Yeah.
You're able to recall some of those topics you would learn. Good. Okay. Have you learned the term called scheduled data? This comes as an output of your time management, right? So scheduled data is what this MPP file is. It is having close to 1,000 fields. So if I show you all the 1,000 fields in one screen, everybody will go away. Rather, Microsoft, from the first version of project, the first version was around 97. From the first version of project, Microsoft decided that the user interface should be as simple as possible so that we can structure it. The bad part is we may not know how the user interface is. We try to see it more like an extension of Excel. So the first term that all of us should understand is called as view. Anyone from database here? Database fundamentals? I'm sure that you might have heard about this word called view, right? So what is a view? No complex definition here. Simple.
It's a window.
It's a window, it's a window. So now the window is closed there. So let's assume that window is open. You don't see everything outside, but you see only a subset of the outside data, right? So that's what a view is. So in project, everything is displayed through views. Everything is displayed through views. It's the same data, but represented in different formats to you. There are some views which will display the data in a network. There will be some views that will display the data in a histogram. Some views will be very tabular. So if you want to change from one view to another view, the tip is very simple. Just go to the sidebar. You notice the sidebar here, and you see there's a name called Gantt chart. I don't need to talk about the history of Gantt chart. Most of you might know about it. But if I want to change from the Gantt chart view to another view, just do a right click out here. I'm sure everybody could read it out. These are all the other views available in project. So with just one click, you can move from one view to another view. Some views will display data that is very task centric. Some views will display that is data that is resource centric. Everyone good about it? Okay. So I'm just going to carry on with the same task which I had earlier. I'll be doing it a bit fast if there are topics that are already covered. Okay. So in this Gantt chart, if you notice, on the other side you see Gantt bars, which are followed by links. But if the same plan needs to be shown in a network, just right click out there, change your view to network diagram. What do you notice now? Right, so you do notice network diagram is one way by which you can track the progress and see dependencies, right? So you can move from one view to another by using this. So get the basics right, okay? Don't start applying the do's and don'ts directly without getting the basics. That's a warning I can give you, okay? Now, let's move on. Once we know what a task mode is, the next don't is never include your summary task when you do sequencing. So what do summary tasks generally represent? We have many of you have used project. Heading, okay.
Smaller tasks roll up into summary tasks.
Yeah. And the subtask will get rolled up to summary. Okay.
Parent.
Deliverables. Okay. Anything else? Milestones.
No, summary tasks are not milestones.
Let's listen. Let's listen. I'm not saying they are correct. Okay, let's listen. Yes, sir. I can't walk out. I need a mic. Anyone, please.
Parent.
It's a parent task something, right?
Parent
So
task.
for those who know WBS, you know what a WBS is, right? It is just a higher level task, and the subtask is the lowest level is going to be your work package, which is going to have your deliverables and things of that kind. So what you have as different levels of your WBS is what we represent here as summary task. Okay, so we are going to first start with why not to include summary task in sequencing, though we may know levels does not need to be linked with each other, but we will still link if you are using project. Let's see why we do it and why it is a mistake. So let me close this plan. Okay. I'm just going to give you some time to read through this. Just read through this complete list so that you have an idea about what this summary task is and what are its subtasks. Okay, so we have two summary tasks here, which is in row 1 and row 5, called requirements analysis and design with some sub-activities, right? So generally when we speak to others, we would say after the analysis is done, we can start your design, right? That's how we do a top-down approach. So what we do now is we will start now linking the sub-activities, okay? So there are two ways of doing it. You can go to your predecessor column and enter numbers. Second option is you can select the task and just link it. So let's say I want to say after draft I want to review, after review I want to prepare a budget. Same sequence. So I'll select the task, I'll just click on the link command. So do you all notice that these three tasks are linked? Simple. Now similarly for design, I will just select these two tasks and just link it. So at a phase level or at a summary level, they are all linked. My now general approach is when the requirement analysis is done, my first activity can automatically start.
But these are default things, right?
These are not default. When you say default things, I hope you're talking about
As
this.
soon as possible.
This is a finish to start dependency that has been placed here, which means only when the first task finishes, the second task can actually start. So please do challenge me if you need more requirements. Yes, sir.
Predecessor.
Predecessor is getting updated. So when you start linking it, you will notice your predecessor column will also be updated.
And the constraint is as soon as possible.
Constraint type is as soon as possible. Correct. Because we are going for a forward scheduling here. Yes, sir? Good. Okay, now let's move on. Now let's say after 1, we will start row 5. Do you all agree?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm selecting these two and I'll just link it. So I'm just going to zoom the Gantt chart a bit so that you could understand how they are linked. Do you see that? So after this, after the summary, I can going to start the next activity. Looks good now, right? But changes are inevitable. Right now, you might say everything is finished to start. Later, you might say I'm going to do fast tracking, or I may need to change it to start, or something else. But let's ask ourselves, among these three activities, which activity is really required to start your functional specification? After review, I can start. But the problem here is, I've set the dependency at a summary level. So it assumes that only if everything in requirement analysis is completed, I am going to start my design. But let's try to do it. So I'm going to say my develop is dependent on my review. Okay, so just go through it. It just says my predecessor of my develop functional specification is review with a finish to start dependency. That's what has been said. So though this dependency has been set, you will still notice that this particular, at a summary level, since I have linked it, that is always overriding what has been set at a leaf level. Now the solution to this is you should not have links at a summary level. So I'm just going to break this link and let's see what we get. What do you notice now? After my review, my design is automatically getting started. So the first don't is never link at a summary level because it will look very easy. At a later point in time, your project will be very sequential. It will not take any advantage over of the dependencies that you are setting. But whatever we say, we go back to the whole direction, right? Sometimes. Or you might be looking at plan where you might forget this simple step. That's where you can program project So that when you try to set links at a summary level, it will say, don't do it. How good it will be, right? So that can be done by what we call as macros. Have you used macros before, anyone?
Yes.
In Excel, Word, PowerPoint, every office product will have macros. Okay? What I'm going to show you might be harmful to you because it is very programming and code. Some of you may not understand what the English is. But still, it is always good to know there is an option available through which you can prevent this. So I'm just going to close this plan. I'll just open another plan which is having a macro inbuilt. Since this file is having macro, you will always get this alert. I'll just enable it. It's a different set of task list, okay? But I hope you could see that there are two phases here, phase 1 and phase 2. And phase 1 is not now linked to phase 2, correct? Now the same step I'm going to do, link phase 1 with phase Y, link it. Okay? So what do you notice now? It has been accepted now. Because right now in that particular macro, right, I have just ensured that at a summary level, dependencies should not be set. So I'm just going to do it the other way. Let's link it. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to show you the macro first. Okay, I'll come back to this because that might be a different file. Okay, but macros are something that we could always use here. Okay. Now let's move on to the next don't. Assigning resources to summary task. Have you heard about this term responsibility, RACA? You know that, right? What is the difference between a responsible and accountable? What is the difference? You are accountable for your project as a project manager, but not responsible. What does that mean?
Accountable is
Responsible.
you are answerable.
You are answerable finally, but responsibility can be with your team members.
Responsibility can be with
Team
others.
leader.
Correct? Now going back to project, I'll just open up file for that example. Again the same set of tasks, but the only difference is I have not assigned any resources to it. Okay? For your information, we have a view available called resource sheet where I have just a few resources. These are some random names I have already in my plan. I have 4 team members. So in general, when you look at this project plan, you will notice a column name called resource name. We don't have any clarity about is it accountable or is it responsible or is it consulted or informed, we don't know it. But in project, when we say resource name, it only talks about responsibility, not about accountability. At a phase level, I will have someone accountable, but at a subtask level, I will have someone responsible. It could even happen the same person is both responsible as well as accountable. So I'm just going to say that for requirements analysis, I keep myself as an accountable person. I'm going to have some resource names at the subtask level. I hope all of you did notice. I just made a simple selection. So is this the right approach?
No.
Why?
There will be a conflict between the summary responsibility and the task responsibility.
But that is accountability.
It's not specified. Right?
Correct. The point here is, though in your words it is accountable, project does not know it. Project does assumes that Sai is going to work from this day to this day for 4 days. And what you notice is during that 4 days time, he is also working on another task, which is one of its sub activities. So when you see this, you will notice a fireman on the first column. This indicates that that particular team member has been overloaded with work. People do a lot of things in order to resolve it. What they do is they will just right click and they will say ignore this problem. Okay, they will say reschedule it to next available date. Nothing will happen. They will hide that one.
Easy solution.
They write it down. Why do you show the problem if you don't solve it? Okay? But the solution here is you should not You can't resolve it. You can't resolve it. So the only way by which you can do it is just make sure that psi has been removed from either the subtask or from its summary task. So the moment I do it, do you see that? Now the resource is happy. So that's what I would like to tell you. So when you get this red color fireman, which means that you are having a team member who is overloaded, which means he is working on two parallel activities or he is spending more effort than what is expected. So just watch out that red fireman. For information, this red fireman will appear only from project 2010 onwards. For the earlier versions of project, we have different views available through which you can spot this overallocation.
But sorry, that can also happen. You can work on parallel tasks.
You can work on, but the point is red color fireman. The red fireman which I
No,
just talked
I'm
about.
saying within the subtask, so a team member can work on both the.
No problem. You can always
Same
resolve it
data.
by delaying one of the tasks by resource level. You can delay one of these two tasks to a later date, or you can move one of these tasks to another available resource. That option is available. But the problem here is when I have a resource at a summary level, and even at a subtask level, that problem cannot be solved by you and project without replacing that team member by another person. The reason is because as per project, resource name talks about the person who is going to do the work. It does not talk about accountability. Okay? So some of you might be happy about it that I know this, but how do I factor accountability now? We can make use of what we call as custom fields. Have you used custom fields in project? Anyone? Okay, then I can talk about it. Okay, custom fields, right? So in Excel you write formulas, right? Right? Everybody likes formulas? Okay, now let me do that. So I'm going to just have a custom field. Please note this custom field I'll have a list of people who are accountable in this project. Okay, so I'm just going to have a custom field called text1. Okay, right click. I'll go to custom fields. I'll just give a rename it to accountability. Okay, I hope you are able to see what I did, right? Okay. Next, I'm just going to have a lookup. Please note this does not come from your resource sheet. You need to type in the name of people who are. Okay, so let me have different names like Mark. Yeah. Okay, I'll say okay to it. So now I can just say for the first activity, Mark is accountable, whereas responsibility lies with these people. This is more not a perfect solution, but this is a good way by which you can always record who is accountable and who is responsible by having custom fields. So make note of it.
Can be the same person.
It can be. It can be. So if I have the same person for, you're talking about responsibility or accountability? Okay, you can. So I can have Sai for the second and for the third. But since these tasks are very sequential and some are parallel, you will notice this parallel. So to resolve this problem, you don't need to be upright. You can just right click now and you can always say reschedule to the next available date. So it will find when Sai is available in this project
But
and it will automatically
here is
move it.
where I wanted to ask you. Like suppose if I am working, if somebody is working 0.5 there and 0.5 here, like he's spending 4 hours in the first task and 4 hours in the second task. So in that case, I don't want to resolve it. It is true for my
It
case.
is true. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So what I'm saying is, though it is 0.5 and 0.5, at a project level, it tracks at a minute level. So it will still assume that from 8 to 12
Yes,
on
go
first task and 8 to 12 on the second task.
True.
So what you should do is you will still get that alert. When you resolve that conflict, you will see the dates will not change because it is only the timing that is getting shifted.
We can avoid that. See it, right?
Sorry, sir.
This is fact issue. This is made.
But his question is, he is working only 50% on the first activity.
No, he is working on both the tasks in parallel.
Correct. Which means 4 hours on
4
one
hours
task
there
and 4 hours on the other task. When you say 50%, which means 2 hours per day.
4 hours.
Correct. 4 hours is going to be divided as 2 hours per day. So now the task will take much longer. Rather than 1 day, it is going to now to take 2 days.
Or can you change the duration from days to hours?
Yeah.
That will solve the problem.
You can, but his requirement is if you change it from hours to days, still finally it is minutes only, right?
When he's saying 4 hours in 1 day, in 1 day 4 hours in one task, 4 hours in another task.
Correct.
So instead of tracking on the basis of days, it's tracking on the basis of hours. In 1
But
day.
still, finally, if you look at it, the way the dates are scheduled, it is at more at a minute level. So if you look at the first task, it is still, though it is 4 hours or 0.5 days or even 1 day, it is still from morning 8 to evening 6.
That's true. See, in that he's bringing in another resource, right?
Correct.
Say 2 days, I'm leaving it. In the resource name, I'm bringing, say, a resource 1, 50%, comma resource 2,
Agreed.
50%.
Totally agree. So I can even demonstrate that here. So I can say 7 on the first activity. I can just say that I just reduce the units. It is not 50%. I just change the settings to decimals.
Yeah.
So I can just say 0.5 on the first. That is about 50% for you. For the third, I am just going to say it is 0.5.
So in this case, there should not be any error.
Now you see that overlocation is automatically resolved, but the side effect here is now the task is taking longer.
Yeah.
Other duration is true.
So you need to balance it, right? That's all it is.
You need to go manually and later.
Good. So is everyone clear about the tips so far? So please challenge me with these questions.
In the accountability, okay, you mentioned the resource name is
Correct.
can I include again in some mark I can add size
Yeah, you can, but you should manually customize it and do it.
again will that
Yeah.
overallocation will come?
No. Accountability, there is no overlocation. Accountability is only supervised. Okay.
Just
So
a text
first, the list what you see here is not even a resource name. It is a just a text.
text field.
This is the additional field.
So nothing gets validated.
Yeah, this is just
No,
text one has been
no.
specifically created for accountability.
Just for
It's additional
Just for reporting.
This is an additional field. When you say additional field, this field is already there in the 1000.
Yeah.
You are just making it visible and
Visible.
customizing it. Any other questions? Are we all good?
Yeah.
Fine.
So
Yes, sir.
Can we add the resource name while typing here in the answer?
Yeah, we can.
Get added that.
I would say don't do that. Why? Okay, because the moment you type in a name of a resource, project assumes he's a full-time team member. He works 5 hours, five days a week. It assumes its the time is morning 8 to evening 5. But of these 3, I assume one of those will be wrong. So my recommendation is don't type it here. Rather change the view to resource sheet. Because through the resource sheet, you can have a name of resource. May I have your name?
Right.
Durai. Okay. So I want to say Durai is available to this project only 50%. And let's say your working time is only 4 days a week. Let's take this requirement. So I can just go to Durai. First thing, change your working time. Okay, so I'm going to say his working time is only from Monday to Friday. So you can see by default it is 5 days a week. And the timing is also, if you notice, it is from 8 to 12, 1 to 5. Don't worry about 1 to 5 not getting displayed. It is more of a projective problem. Okay. So I'm going to just change this. I will just say that on Fridays it's going to be a non-working day for them. Which means that I'm working only 4 days a week. But though I work 4 days a week, on each of these days, I'm only 50% available to this project. So you can close this working time. And in the resource availability, this is where you provide your billability or availability data. So I can clearly say that he is available for the month of August for the first 5 days, maybe 0.5. Maybe towards the last week of August, he is available. I hope this should address with you.
So
right?
here is where you capture the vacations also, right?
Yeah. Vacation you don't capture here. That's wrong. Vacation should always be captured in the calendar. So if I want to, okay, let's say Durai goes on a vacation on 23rd. Right now 23rd is a working day. So whether he is working in this project or another project, is a vacation. So never go to the availability. So this is where you use your exceptions. So exceptions will always override your work weeks. So I will select that day and I will say enter your vacation. Do you notice now that 23rd becomes a non-working day out there? So which means when I push work to Durai on that day, the work will automatically get shifted to the next working day. So most of the problem happens because the calendars are not set right. Okay, you see that if we do a mental calculation, it should take 10 days, but you see project completes it in 15 days or 5 days. We try to do all these things and finally we change it to manually scheduled so that we have complete control over how to change this. But that will not help. So get your calendars right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now the benefit of this timing here or the allocation here is when I try to give work to Durai outside these dates, project will automatically say is overloaded. So just remember the dates that I gave here 1 to 5, 22 to 26. Okay? So I'll just say okay to it and go back to my Gantt chart. So just notice this task. Develop functional specification. When is the schedule now? 12th of August. So I'm just going to assign Durai to it. Let's see what we get. Durai will be happily assigned to this task, but he will be overloaded. What is this? So the moment you have it, you have an option. You can either change this allocation or you can find another available resource to get this done. So is everyone good about it? Any questions about resources?
One more thing, so can you have public areas also into the calendar so that we
Yeah, you can do it, sir. But I would say project is very bad in that, okay? Because for every holiday, you need to make an entry in exception. Okay, rather, we can write a macro that can read an Excel file and import it automatically. I'll show you that part towards the end of this one. Okay, but that option is available, but you need to know what a macro is and how to run it. Okay, that is something to do.
But sorry, this customized
For all
feeds,
the public
can we
do it in the project.
Okay, okay. Now I think we are moving beyond the do's and don'ts. But for everybody understanding, there are 4 types of calendars. The first calendar is what we call as base calendar. The next one is project. The third one is resource, and the last one is task. To give you an idea, look at your team. Are they working from the same location or different locations? Maybe. They may be more from one location or one city, right? So each city is having a different working time and holidays. Do you all agree?
Yeah.
So which means so many base calendars should be created first. Once a base calendar is created, the next step is you need to say what is the default calendar for my entire plan. Which means when I enter a new task in this plan, what should be the default base calendar that should be selected? Let's say in this example, we have a team in Chennai and Coimbatore. If I say at a project calendar level, if I say it is Coimbatore, all tasks by default will be scheduled as per Coimbatore working time. So is everyone having an idea about what that project calendar is? Please note, I may not be able to give a demo of it, but at least the concept you need to understand. Now, the moment I assign a team member to a task, Durai or myself or him, as per his working time, the task is now getting scheduled. Which means resource calendar will override at a project level. Now, the last calendar, what did I mention? Task calendar. You might say there are certain tasks that needs to be done on specific timing. Do you all agree with this? Maybe it's a routine or a production support or anything, where you don't really worry about whether the team is available or not because they can work in shifts. So for those types of tasks, we go for a task calendar. So task calendar will never respect your resource, and there's a higher chance there will be resource overallocation. Resource working from? Okay. Can I just give an example? Let's validate if that is what you want. I have a team member working for 3 months in one city and they move to another city for the remaining. Is that what you want?
Same duration. One resource is working from Bangalore, another resource is working from
Okay.
and they have the different leave or holidays, whatever.
You can do it, sir. I'll just demonstrate that. Okay. The resource calendar is always respected when it schedules work for them. Just remember that point. So if I give you 8 hours work and if I give me also 8 hours work on the same task, my work 8 hours will be scheduled as per my resource calendar, which means I may take either longer or shorter to complete it. Whereas you will take, as per your resource calendar, the dates is going to be scheduled. I'll just give you a small idea of how it works. Okay, so I'll just go to the resource sheet. Okay, so I'll just take Durai in this example. So I want to say Durai works only 4 hours per this week. Okay, and I will also say that Monday to Thursday His working time is only 8 to 12. Okay. Now the other team members are working 5 days a week to complete it. So remember, now going back to Gantt chart, I just have this column. Work. Work represents your effort columns. Okay. Now you see that Durai is working for 2 days, and the total hours he spends is 16 hours. Okay. So I'm just going to bring in another view so that you could see that. So let's say I'm assigning Sai event to it. Okay. So I'm going to keep it very simple. 8 days and 8 hours. So now notice how the work is now scheduled. So did you notice this? Just notice this section alone. Durai is working, his 8 hours is getting spread across 2 days. Whereas if you look at Sai, since he is working morning to evening, he is able to complete 8 hours in 1 day, which means the resource calendar is always respected. So you don't need to really worry about having multiple tasks for each team member.
So
The same team member, okay,
Yeah.
more resource can be assigned
So
to the
sorry,
same.
that means for different locations I can have different base calendars and then associate those base calendars with the
Resources.
specific resource.
Exactly.
Right?
So if you have seen the resource sheet, you would have seen this one, this column.
Right. Okay. I should change
This is where you will say, my first 3 team members are from Chennai, the last 2 team members are from Coimbatore.
Right.
So the benefit you have is tomorrow if the working time in Coimbatore changes, to change it at a base calendar level, automatically it gets updated. So is everyone good? Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so
And this custom field, sorry,
Hmm.
you can give any formula that you want, right? As you give it in Excel.
yeah.
Average, minimum.
We have custom fields on text, flag, which is Boolean type. We have custom fields on date, cost, duration, number. We have many custom fields, and each custom field will be from 1 to 20,
Okay.
which means text 1 to text 20.
Hmm.
I think that is more than enough for us to customize anything more. Okay. Interesting topic. Typing dates. How many of you have typed dates in project? Hey, I don't know your names. You can raise it. Okay, everybody, right? So it takes the courage to raise the hands also. So now, going back to projects, I'll just show you what will happen if you type dates. So let's get the basics right. We all know a schedule can be prepared either forward scheduling or to a backward scheduling. We all know that. But you need to know where to change it from what to what. So go to project info. You will notice this drop down. It says schedule from project start date, which means all your activities will be scheduled as soon as possible. But what we sometimes do is, though we might set the dependencies, maybe because of human error, we may try to move a taskbar to a later or to an earlier date. Even a small mistake in even dragging this bar will create problems later for you. Now just watch out. Now this review software specification can start after my draft. So I'll just link it. So you all notice that this particular task is scheduled the moment the next activity, the earlier activity is completed. Now the constraint type that has been applied on review is as soon as possible. Now if I just move over on this taskbar, okay, I'll just do this. I hope you're able to see a 4-headed arrow out there. What sometimes people do is they just move over just to see what the name is, but because of a small mistake, they might just drag it like this and just drop it. Nothing happened, right? But something happened. Look at the indicator column. Do you see a small calendar icon? Now what does this calendar say? Let's read it. This task has a start no earlier than on a particular date, which means if I complete my draft in one day also,
I will have to
my review will not get advanced automatically. So I just changed my draft's duration from 2 days to 1 day. You will see though its duration is coming down, but this task is staying where it is because I have placed a constraint on it. There is no foolproof way to avoid this. It's more of discipline. Okay, never drag a task there. And if you have done it, just always check the indicator column if you have any calendar icon. Because constraints are always respected than dependencies. If you want to remove this constraint, can you let me know what should be the constraint I should change it to? Exactly, as soon as possible. The same one, advanced tab, constraint type, make sure that you change this to as soon as possible and say, okay, now you see because it is auto scheduled, all your tasks is getting advanced. So never type dates because when you type dates, you are killing your plan.
In certain cases,
Sorry?
in certain cases, tasks should be done on a particular date,
Hmm.
and we need to type the dates.
There, don't use the shortcut of dragging it.
Yeah.
Rather, consciously open this task,
And type
go
the
to
dates.
advanced tab, ask yourself which constraint type should I place. Can anyone let me know what is the favorite constraint type for a project finish date? Must be finish on. Nothing will happen. Okay? When you say must finish on, the task is just going to stick to the date. It will not even respect you tomorrow. Okay? I also do it so that you know the consequence. When you drag the task to a later date, I hope everybody saw the calendar icon. What is the color in the calendar icon? Light bluish dot, right? But when you try to change it to a constraint which is not good, like must start on or must finish on, project is very good in giving warnings. We may be very good in ignoring it. Okay? So we don't understand what this is. Now the worst part is I've come across certain plans, they will just say, hey, don't tell me about this again. The problem here is you can't turn it back on. Because you need to go to system registry to turn it off. And we don't know how to open registry also. Okay? So never turn this on. Read through what it says. It says by setting a must start on, you may create a scheduling conflict, which means your project plan will become more static later. But if you say I'm good at what option I know, just say continue. What is the calendar icon now? Red. Now, if my draft is now taking 5 days, see, project is shouting now. It will say there is a scheduling conflict because you are moving a task to a later date, but I'm not able to respect a dependency set. So if you say continue and say, okay, this is how it look like. Project completed, but work is still progress. Okay. Sometimes people confuse this with the lead. I'm sure everybody would have heard that. Lead, right? They think this is a lead set. No, this is not a lead. If it has been a lead, when I move my draft to a later date, it should automatically get adjusted, but it will not happen. So always look at your indicator column because it is going to tell you what constraint have you placed. So the solution here is go back and just change it to as soon as possible. So whenever you are placing a constraint other than as soon as possible, a good practice is update the notes. Why am I setting a constraint as must start on or must finish on? Not to make the other person happy. Tomorrow when you are reviewing this plan again, you need to know why that constraint was set. Okay, and based on which you can take actions. So is everyone clear? Okay, if you have done it, let that be the last one. Okay, never even type dates in project. In Excel you can. Okay. Now let's look at the next mistake: scheduling a plan from a project finish date. Even before the requirement is known, we know the finish date ideally. So that's how we start planning from the finish date going back to the start date. Going back to the earlier tip, I said that there are 2 ways of scheduling a plan. What are they? Forward and backward. Backward is more often people use because you know the finish date is fixed, but the start date is flexible. Though it is good for planning, it is not good when we execute the project because your finish date cannot move. So I'm going to show you what problems will happen and how to avoid it now. Let's go back to the next plan. So just check your project information now. It is scheduled from project finish date. Just remember the date. It is 31st of this month. So then I have a set of tasks and 2 phases. So as I change the duration of these activities, observe what happens to the days. If I say my draft is going to take now 5 days, what is getting changed? Start date, because the finish date is now fixed.
You get into costs.
So based on the finish date, you are scheduling the start date now. Okay, that is what we predominantly start with. So, but when I start linking it, I just link it in a very sequential manner. Now notice what happens. Your start date is now calculated. You have nailed down the finish date. Is everyone clear about it? Now you might say the plan now looks good and you can share it and you can get it approved. But once you start executing this project, you will start recording the actuals to it. Okay? When you start recording actuals, there is always a chance your task may get delayed. Okay? So I will just baseline this plan and I will come back to this point later also. This is how you baseline a plan. Baseline means you are taking a snapshot of your current estimates. I'll baseline it. I'll also show you how to see the baseline data. Now you see there are 2 colored bars. The black represents approved. The blue represents your current plan. Right now the plan is not started. Okay, I'll just state where it is. So what I will do next is I'm going to say that draft activity started at a later date. So I'm just going to say that it did not start on 12, but it started on 13th or 15th. So what do you notice now? I'm saying that activity started 2 days later, but project should accept it. But what does it say now? There is a scheduling conflict because it cannot move your project finish date now.
Yes.
But if you still say continue, the old problem will be there. Remember, the false lead. It was a constraint. It is not a constraint here, but it is because of your backward scheduling. So though backward scheduling might look very attractive, but don't use it. My recommendation is whether your plan is at a high level or detail level, always go for forward scheduling. I know you will not be happy about this option because the finish date is estimated by project. If the finish date is estimated by the project, always look at options to optimize this plan. We are already aware of 2 commands, right? 2 techniques, fast tracking and crashing. You can always start applying them on your critical path to optimize your project plan. Yes, sir.
Can we create the schedule in backup and afterwards change it forward?
You can. At any point in time, you can always do it. I can go here and I can just change it to. Now, the only challenge you will have here is whatever has been baseline or whatever that has been planned, its constraint type will still be as late as possible only. It's only for new tasks that you are about to add, new tasks, new entries, will be scheduled as soon as possible. If that is what your expectation is, go ahead and change. But never assume that if I change from backward to forward, everything will get changed to as soon as possible. That's not how it happens.
So when you do that test backward to forward, you just have the kind of you know where the start date is, and you have to start a new plan, and accordingly you need to adjust.
Okay, and generally backward scheduling is used if you want to provide a rough estimate to your customer. Customer might say by end of December we want 3 projects to go live. This is the budget. What is the likely date we need to start? So you have given a finish date now, you need to go backward to calculate the start date. Maybe from our context. But I don't see in any of our projects we go for backward scheduling. Yes, I heard that. Yeah. Okay, I'll repeat this question. How to add float to a plan? Float cannot be added. That's the first answer. Okay? Float is automatically calculated by project based on the number of paths you are having here. So I'll just take a look at this plan. So look at this plan. In this plan, everything is very sequential. So float is naturally 0 for everything. Okay. The bad part in backward planning is everything will be critical. because every task is scheduled as late as possible. So you don't have any float availability. That's the drawback there. So to the first question, how can we add float? You can add dummy activities and add float. Just to give an impression that we are doing more work. Okay, but that is not ethical. We don't allow it. But let project calculate the float of all your activities. So I'll just go back to another plan to show you that because I need a forward scheduled plan. Okay, let's take a look at this plan. I'm just linking it. Okay, so it's quite obvious you might have identified which is a critical path here, which is not. But if you want to have visual indicator, you can always go to the format and you can just say critical. We don't use float here, we say slack. So we say slack. So let me turn this on. You notice this? The black line, trailing line talks about slack. If you need a number, a column for slack, you can have the column just anywhere, total slack. Notice it is 3 days. I don't need to get into that part. I hope this answers your question about how to see your slack. So to get it, slack cannot be increased or decreased by you. If you want to reduce the slack or increase the slack, make sure that your critical path is much longer. Okay, that's how you can do it. Are we all good about it?
Yes.
Any questions about this point? Now, this is another interesting part, how we should not do resource leveling in project. When it comes to a PMP, you have 4 options, you select the best option, you get it right. Whereas in project, there are so many ways of doing it, huh? So we may not use the right way always. So I will go back to a plan. Okay. So right now this plan is having 2 phases, but I have not assigned any team members to any of them. Okay, so I'm not going to assign my resource to a summary, but only at a leaf level. Okay, so I'm just going to do some assignment. I'm going to assign. I've just done some random assignment. Okay, I'm quite sure you might have seen there is a overallocation in this plan because of parallel activities. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the best way is you might right click one of those tasks which is overloaded and you might say reschedule it to the next available date. Now let me do this first. What happens? This task is automatically getting pushed to a later date. But if I do the same for the other task, okay, I'll just bring in the critical path so that you could see this. What do you see now? Now my critical path is now taking much longer, maybe 1 day more. And naturally it is affecting your overall project duration. You might have a restriction that your critical path should not be affected in any case. Okay? The way you can achieve it is, you don't have control over slack, but you can always prioritize your task. So we have a column available called priority. The value of priority can be between 1 to 1000, where 1 is lowest priority, 1000 is highest priority. Now all tasks are having the same priority, so I'll go to draft and say this task is having the highest priority. Now let me right click to and say reschedule. Did anything happen? I'm doing it again. Nothing happens because that task is having the highest priority. It may not be because of critical path you wanted, but because of some reason you don't want a task to be delayed because when we do resource leveling. So always have this priority field handy so that you can control it. I would also recommend that on your resource tab, we have this command called leveling options. Please take some time to go through these commands. I'm not going to get into each one of them. Okay, but just to give you an idea, the first section says automatic and manual. Don't confuse automatic manual to task mode. It has nothing to do with it. Manual means project will only alert when there is an overallocation. You need to resolve the problem on your own. But when you say automatic, the moment there is an overallocation, project will automatically delay a task. So when there are too much of changes in your plan, you will be confused. Okay, and without your permission, you do it. That's the bad part. So my recommendation: don't go for automatic. The second reason why we don't go for automatic is you can't undo it. Task delayed will be delayed always. And when you are working on very large plans, automatic options will freeze your project every time. Your software will just hang for a few times because it needs to calculate all the 5,000 activities, find out which is overloaded, which is underloaded, and accordingly do it. So keep it as manual. The second drop down, do you see it as day by day? Day by day means a team member should work not more than 8 hours per day. So you want to identify overallocation at a day level, or a week level, or a month level. If I say week level, I might be overloaded on Monday, but for that week, I am working only 30 hours. Which means at a week level, I'm not overloaded. Predominantly in all our projects, we would like to resolve overallocation more at a day level, may not be at a week level. So keep this more at a day by day settings. The reason is if you change this to week by week, you will notice that red color fireman will disappear. Because in a week, he is working less than 40 hours only. So never do that. The next section talks about leveling range.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
You say that board allocation on a week by week basis, it will be from this project.
Correct. It is not. It is not actually. This is a setting that is saved in the system. Okay, so every time when you open a plan, make sure that the setting is right. Because for some plans you might want to have it week by week. For some plans you might want to have it day by day. So project is confusing. Okay, there are a few commands few settings that is getting saved in the file itself. There are few settings that are saved in the registry. So this is saved as a part of your registry and not as a part of your file. Okay. Now moving to the second section, it talks about leveling range. Do you all see this? When we want to prepare a project plan where I want to focus and optimize resource leveling only by parts. If for the next 2 months I want to see overallocation and resolve it, make sure that you change the date range accordingly. The third section is where you are trying to focus on these settings. Yes?
There is a file indication, leveling range for file.
This is the name of the file. Name of my file is file. It's for the demo purpose. Yeah. Okay, now let's move on to yours. And just read through it. Okay, it talks about the first checkbox. I'm quite sure everybody could understand about it. It says that the task that I'm trying to choose to delay, should it be within its available slack or not, so that your critical path is not getting affected. The second checkbox talks about if I have more than one team member working on the same activity. So the task be moved completely, or it's only the resource is overloaded. This assignment alone should be moved to a later date. So small example, if Durai and me are working on a task, Durai is overloaded, his work alone can get shifted to the next week. But I can still work as per my plan. That's what the second checkbox is. The third one is there are certain activities that should not be split. 4 days task. Do you want to do it continuously or do you want to split it to avoid this overallocation? The last but one option is more to do with the proposed resource, because when we generally prepare a project plan, certain resources are soft lock, some are hard lock. For resources who are blocked to your project, you might say committed, otherwise you might say proposed. Proposed resources, if they are overloaded, you may not need to worry about it right now, because you might find a replacement at a later time. The last option is sometimes important. I hope everybody could understand what it is. It says level even manually schedule tasks, because you can even assign team members to manually schedule tasks, and that might have a overallocation also. So that might even solve this problem. So is everyone good about it? Okay, I'm not getting into all these options, then it might become a training program. But I just wanted to keep it at a high level. Just explore those options. Okay, inadequate baselining. Okay, so I touched on this point earlier, okay, but I just wanted to bring this to you. First, let's ask ourselves this question: how do you see whether a plan is baselined or not? Yeah.
I can go to the view and
Yeah, in the Gantt chart, you can just right click. You can say show the baseline, right? Okay. Any other options?
If you have actual start
But okay, you say if I have actual start and actual finish, there's a chance it is baseline. Okay, then
Can insert the columns.
you can insert columns. Okay, yes. Which column, sir? Any column that starts with the keyword baseline, you can see it, right? But let me show you another way by which you can see the baseline. Do we all understand this term called the view? Yes, sir.
The concept will have the gray color.
Exactly. So if I want to see it, you need to right click and do. A couple of clicks can be saved. If you change your view to what we call as tracking Gantt. So right now I'll just change this view to tracking Gantt. So I'll just see this. This is the name of the view. So the benefit of tracking Gantt is it is going to show you the critical path automatically. It will also tell you whether a plan has been baselined or not. Right now this plan is not baseline. How many baselines can be set in project?
11.
11. Any other different answer?
But the n number, 11 is the default.
11 is a default.
But the n number is possible.
N number is possible. Okay, let's see if it's possible. Yeah, then
11 or less.
11 or less. But how many baselines will you have for a project?
Only one at a time.
The answer is only one. The project is having 11 baselines. Of the 11, remember, the one that is without number is your latest baseline. Baseline 1 to baseline 10, which we'll see next, is only for your reference purpose, backups. But people who may not have this knowledge think first baseline is baseline 1, second baseline 2. After 10 baselines, they don't know what to do. Now the drawback of using 1 to 10 is it is not going to be used by project to report deviation. To report deviation, you always need to set your latest baseline in baseline without any number. It looks like just central baseline. So I go to project set baseline. You will notice this. This is what I was talking about. So your latest baseline is set in baseline for your entire project. A common belief we have is whatever you see on the screen is baseline. No. When you say baseline entire project, your task, resources, and assignment, all estimates across the 1,000 fields are getting baseline. So your view is not quite important at any point in time. You can be in a network diagram, you can be in a task usage or resource usage or even Gantt chart when you do this step. Once you say baseline entire project and say, okay, since we are in a tracking Gantt, notice what happens. So the couple of clicks we don't need. He was talking about doing a right click and showing that. That we don't need if you are still in Gantt chart. We had a couple of colleagues who said we can insert columns, but you don't need to do it because we have a table that is going to display only baseline data. I'll show you what it is. Right now, the tracking Gantt is having a table on one side. You all see this? Just scan through these column names. Duration, start and finish. Do we all agree when I change any one of these columns, the other columns will automatically get updated? But when I say baseline, it is static. It is a frozen version of your estimate. So naturally, these columns are not baseline. So first I'll accept that fact. The second point is rather than inserting columns, these columns that you just saw is being grouped. So if you do a mouse over on top of this point, you will notice a tooltip. So what is the name of the table displayed here? Entry. So which means these columns that you see before us is being given a different name called as entry. So I'm just going to right click here. Okay, entry has been selected. I'll go to more tables. You will notice a table name called baseline. I'll say apply. What's the column names now? This is what you wanted. The problem here is when you type in column names, there is a chance that we may not know the right name. We might insert baseline 1 and baseline doing all these things. Right? So this is how you do it. So is everyone clear about how to set the baseline and how to see this? Okay? Baseline is something that is frozen. You should not be able to edit it, but project will allow you to edit it. Okay? So which means if I can go to this and I can just change 2 days to 5 days, it will still allow it, but which is wrong. So my recommendation is never show the baseline columns to others unless they want it, because they might overwrite some of these values and there is no way by which we can get these details back. Okay?
Where is the actual start here?
Yeah. We need to go back to your entry table. Entry table is your forecast. Remember, entry table is your forecast, your current plan. Baseline is your approved version. If you want to record the actuals, change your table to tracking. The name of the table is tracking. I hope you could see that.
Do we have a view where we can compare the baseline and actuals?
That's what we are seeing right now.
This one.
So if you go to the first task and say this task is taken, let's say more than 2 days, let's say 5 days. Do you see that? We actually approved it for 2 days. Now this task has taken 5 days to complete. So the actual days has been set. Now you see the slippage is also quite visible on the other end. But visually also. Visually, if you want to see the slippage, this is how you see it. But if you would like to see it more in terms of columns, we have a table available called variance. What the variance table does is it compares your current plan, which includes your 3 days delay, and your baseline. Now notice these columns, you could make it out. This is your forecast, which includes what has been done also. This is what you've been approved by the client, and this is your deviation. Since this affected your critical path, you see your project summary also, there is a 3-day delay because you are missing your project finish date in this case.
So you can put in the actual values and start and finish.
Sorry?
You put in the actual values and start and finish.
My suggestion, don't do that. Because start and finish represents your forecast. Okay, for tasks that is already completed, start finish represents actual start and actual finish. Bit confusing? Okay, let me make it clear. Start finish represents your forecast. Remember that. For a task that is already completed, forecasting cannot be done.
Right.
So in that case, start finish is actual start and actual finish. For a task that is in progress or yet to start, project will automatically calculate its revised dates based on calendars, dependencies, and other information. So I will bring that additional column so that you could see the difference out. Actual start and actual finish. So notice the first task is already completed. Okay? So the moment I say the first task is taken another 2 days more, you'll notice the forecast is automatically getting updated. Because of it got completed on 12, this task is also getting updated and the other dependent task is also getting adjusted.
The baseline start and finish will not change.
It will not. It is editable, but don't edit it. That's what my point is.
So the actuals you are always put in start, actual start and actual finish.
Yeah. You always sync your table to tracking and do it. If you want to see the other columns in other tables, you can always insert those columns and see it. But use this as the table for recording your actuals. Never use your entry or start finish to record actuals. Because you don't have control over to record what? The actual duration, remaining duration in those sets of tables. Yes, sir. No. I said it is estimated for 2 days. The moment you say actual duration is 5, it assumes that I have already completed that work. But if you still say work is still pending, go to the remaining duration and say it is 2 days. Now notice, out of 9 days, 7 days is completed. So now you will see the percentage is 70%. So when you record your actual duration, if it is more than the remaining duration, project will automatically reset the remaining duration to 0. That's the default behavior. So you need to explicitly say there is some more days left. Record it. Now I hope you could understand how this 78 is calculated. Is everyone clear? I see there is a right hand here. Everyone good?
Yes, I have one question.
Yeah.
Since we are talking about insert the column, is delete and hide are necessary?
There is no delete column, sir.
Only really.
Only hiding.
So after typing something, we don't want the details the column.
Right click, hide column.
But the details will be there.
Details will still be there in your NTP file, but in the view it will not be displayed.
Yes, sir.
You are comparing this with Excel. I know
So,
where you are coming from.
so once we type something, then it will be there.
When you say hide, the next question is how to unhide. Okay, there is no unhide column here. Hide it. Remember the field name which you just hidden. Maybe in the same column or another column, right click and just insert that column again and just say actual start.
So if somebody works on the same project, then maybe that cannot be there because I only did that.
I have a solution for this. I understand everybody will have this, right? We will, with an excuse of experimentation, we'll have so many columns, and finally we don't know what we are looking at. Okay. So my suggestion is, you want to reset it to the old format, right? So take a look at this plan. The actual start has been hidden. You forgot the name also, but you want to reset it. Just go to view. Do you see the tables? Do you see this column? The moment you do it, it is just going to reset it back to the original format.
The last
The time when, no, not the last format. When we say default,
Viewing the
as per tracking, these are the standard columns.
So the values, whatever you enter last
It will be
I
there.
will see.
You don't need to pray. It will be there. Okay. Plan will still be having the data. The point is, we are looking at the view. That's what I wanted to focus.
So the other ones will be hidden.
Go back to the old data.
It's not that way, because the moment you hide that column, please remember when you type these data, it is not the view is getting updated. Your NTP file, the 1000 columns are getting updated in one way or the other. Some people have a doubt. In network diagram, I see this is critical path. In Gantt chart, will it be same? It is the same data given to us in different format. Yes, any other question?
No, I was just saying, so when you say the restore to default, the ones which you have created newly will get hidden.
Yes.
how do you re-baseline the? Do you go to the baseline table and
You don't go to the baseline table. Baseline table is only to view the data.
right?
To reset it, go to project, set baseline.
Okay.
Same command.
Okay. As per the current status, right?
Let's say there is a change request.
Yeah.
You want to re-baseline it. I'm not going to the complete flow here, but give you an idea.
Yeah.
Your change request will not affect your entire plan.
Uh,
All the phases will not get affected because of a change request.
yeah, but it might have an impact on the overall schedule.
Maybe, but we don't know whether it is on the critical path or not. But we go by the assumption that not
It
everything
is.
is getting updated.
Okay.
But even that change request and affected activities should be baselined again.
Correct.
So what we
Entire
do
plan
is,
has to be baseline
let's say
based.
if these are the tasks that is getting impacted.
Right.
If these are the tasks that is getting impacted because of the change,
Okay.
the first step is on your entry table, which is your forecast, make the change.
And then baseline.
Baseline it, not entire project, but only selected tasks. Because if this is a change request and this is the two tasks that is getting impacted,
Okay.
just select these two and baseline it. You may say why?
Right.
Why? Because the other two tasks is already completed.
Okay.
If you baseline even that, your deviation is getting now reset to 0.
Okay. You will not be able to understand the past performance
Past
of
performance.
the project.
Correct.
So,
So
now only these dates in the baseline would get
Over.
changed, right? Overridden.
Correct.
Right. And we will have the original baseline also stored there, right?
Bad news. You don't.
No. You don't.
Before you override, take a backup from baseline to baseline 1. For those who said 11
Right.
baselines. This
So
is
this
how
is
you
the
take a
reference
backup.
point that we have.
Correct.
So it's
But don't
not
take
that-
backups for every small change. You
Yeah,
only
yeah.
need 10.
Only when there's a major thing.
So, sir, someone said unlimited or something.
Yes.
I don't know. That is only from- Okay. Yeah, this is the last part. Okay, where I was talking about how do we use the elapsed duration for team schedules. So I'll go back to this plan to show you this piece. Okay. So look at this plan. It is having 3 tasks here: coding, unit testing, and automation. And coding and unit testing will generally be done by team members. So I'm just keeping it in days. Let's see the third task. It's more of an automated script will automatically run. It might do a regression testing on your code that you've written. So there is no effort required from us in order to supervise it. It is automatically done. But if I say 2 days here, just notice what happens for that activity. It is scheduled on Thursday and Friday. Do you all see this? Okay. Now, if I say automation testing is going to now take 3 days, now how is it scheduled? Thursday and Friday, and then Monday. But you might wonder why Monday. Even Saturday we can do automation, right? It's a 3 days continuous task. 3 days is required to run the script. So the solution is rather than 3 days, give 3 elapsed days. Elapsed means calendar days. Here, 3 days is 3 into 8 hours. Whereas when I say 3 elapsed days, it is 3 into 24 hours. Which means calendars will be ignored. I'll just make it as 3 days. Notice when the task is now scheduled.
Saturday.
You see this? So you don't need to never play around with something. You can just make it. But a warning. If you are using elapsed days, if you assign team members, they may be overloaded. You know the answer. Because on a Saturday they don't work and you're pushing them to work. So I just do it so that you can see its impact.
We use this for weekend changes.
Exactly. See this? Yes. You're right. It can be done when we are a weekend schedule or something, you can go. Because here I'm not even using a task calendar. No. Yeah, I'm just simply saying the task needs to be scheduled as per calendar days and not business days. This is a very good option to do. Yes, sir. Yeah. See, the reason is again 3 days means 3 into 24. Okay. But if you want this to be 24 plus 24, if you want this to be 24 plus 24, simple. Just make it as 2 days. Are we good? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Alright, I can't hear you. For this task alone. For this task alone. For this task alone.
Calendar has to be modified.
Not required. Not required. Assuming that the task is being done by only server. Only server is going to run it. Which means you are going to use not humans but only materials. Then go for it. If you are having team members who are working around the clock, you will not have a problem. But there are certain specific tasks where you want to ignore your resources, calendars, their availability, because it's a constraint. That's how the task should be scheduled. Then go for E-days. Please note I have given only one example. It is E-days. You can give it as E-weeks, E-months, E-minutes. But the definition of E-day does not change. E-hour is only 60 minutes. You can't say I need to change it to 90 minutes for 1 day. No, you can't. For a project, E-days is 60 minutes. Okay. Question: how do you see whether a plan is baselined or not? Yeah.
You can go to the view and
Yeah, the Gantt chart.
yeah,
You can just right click you can say show the baseline, right? Okay, any other options?
Actual start and actual then you can see this.
But okay, you say if I have actual start and actual finish, there's a chance it is baseline. Okay, then
And insert the columns.
you can insert columns. Okay, yes. Which column, sir? Any column that starts with the keyword baseline, you can see it, right? But let me show you another way by which you can see the baseline. Do we all understand this term called the view? Yes, sir.
The concept we have a playground.
Exactly. So if I want to see it, you need to right click and do. A couple of clicks can be saved. If you change your view to what we call as tracking Gantt. So right now I just change this view to tracking Gantt. So I just see this. This is the name of the view. So the benefit of tracking Gantt is it is going to show you the critical path automatically. It will also tell you whether a plan has been baselined or not. Right now this plan is not baseline. How many baselines can be set in project?
11.
11. Any other different answer?
But the n number, I think 11 is the default.
11 is the default.
But the n number is possible.
N number is possible. Okay, let's see. Possible. Yeah. Then
11 or less.
11 or less. But how many baselines will you have for a project?
Probably one at a time.
The answer is only one. But project is having 11 baselines. Of the 11, remember, the one that is without number is your latest baseline. Baseline 1 to baseline 10, which we'll see next, is only for your reference purpose, backups. But people who may not have this knowledge think first baseline is baseline 1, second baseline 2. After 10 baselines, they don't know what to do. Now the drawback of using 1 to 10 is it is not going to be used by project to report deviation. To report deviation, you always need to set your latest baseline in baseline without any number. It looks like just simply baseline. So I go to project set baseline. You will notice this. This is what I was talking about. So your latest baseline is set in baseline for your entire project. A common belief we have is whatever you see on the screen is baseline. No. When you say baseline entire project, your task, resources, and assignment, all estimates across the 1,000 fields are getting baseline. So your view is not quite important at any point in time. You can be in a network diagram, you can be in a task usage or resource usage or even Gantt chart when you do this step. Once you say baseline entire project and say, okay, since we are in a tracking Gantt, notice what happens. So that couple of clicks we don't need. He was talking about doing a right click and showing that. That we don't need if you are still in Gantt chart. We had a couple of colleagues who said we can insert columns. But you don't need to do it because we have a table that is going to display only baseline data. I'll show you what it is. Right now the tracking Gantt is having a table on one side. You all see this? Just scan through these column names. Duration, start and finish. Do we all agree when I change any one of these columns, the other columns will automatically get updated? But when I say baseline, it is static. It is a frozen version of your estimate. So naturally these columns are not baseline. So first I accept that fact. The second point is rather than inserting columns, these columns that you just saw is being grouped. So if you do a mouse over on top of this point, you will notice a tooltip. So what is the name of the table displayed here? Entry. So which means these columns that you see before us is being given a different name called as entry. So I'm just going to right click here. Okay, entry has been selected and go to more tables. You will notice a table name called baseline. I'll say apply. What's the column names now? This is what you wanted. The problem here is when you type in column names, there is a chance that we may not know the right name. We might insert baseline 1 than baseline 2. Right? So this is how you do it. So is everyone clear about how to set the baseline and how to see this? Okay.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for a wonderful and eye-opening session on Microsoft Project do's and don'ts. Many of us have been using Microsoft projects, but without knowing all the functionalities of basic things. Definitely, it's an eye opener for all of us. And on behalf of PMA chapter, we thank you for giving a wonderful session on this one. I invite Prasanna, our secretary, to deliver momentum.